Hi everyone, my name is Stefan Burns. Welcome to my comprehensive guide on how to prepare health-wise for extreme space weather and other high energy flux events using natural holistic wellness practices and remedies. Now, when large energetic changes are taking place in your environment, large energetic changes are also happening within you. And this in general is stressful to the body and changes health outcomes, especially among those who are bioelectrically sensitive. A typical high energy flux event would be a geomagnetic storm, which can be triggered by a solar flare, a coronal mass ejection, or a high-speed stream impacting Earth's magnetic field. And the enhanced magnetic field volatility alters things such as melatonin secretion and calcium ion balances in the body, altering in general circadian rhythms and more. Energy burst in the Schumann resonances can also trigger bioelectric health effects and symptoms, and localized weather changes such as rainstorms, thunderstorms, snowstorms, or even larger events like hurricanes can all impact health and wellness. High energy events like geomagnetic storms are events that all of us experience regularly, so being prepared for them with a large toolbox of holistic wellness practices ensures that you're on your best footing when they do occur and that you're better able to maintain internal homeostasis. On the left side of your screen, we have a space weather model showing how a geomagnetic storm can be triggered by space weather. In this example, the sun launched two plasma filaments in a coronal mass ejection, creating a combined wave of plasma that sweeps past the Earth. You see it spikes the plasma density all the way to 60, whereas normally it's hanging out around 3 to 5. So this is a very large change in plasma density in regards to the interplanetary magnetic field. This crunches the magnetosphere and it alters its strength quite a bit. And so this can trigger a geomagnetic storm. And this is just an example of how a geomagnetic storm can be triggered, both in terms of plasma density and then also changes in the velocity of the solar wind. And various things that can help you with space weather would be earthing and grounding, myofascial release, aromatherapy, breathing exercises, different herbal teas, sound healing, yoga nidra, meditation, certain rocks and crystals, biofield tuning, reducing tech usage, and reducing blue light exposure, also getting good natural light exposure from sunlight, fasting and or simple foods, and your mindset intention. So we're gonna go over all these in this video so you can use them either independently or combined to make yourself more fortified against these types of high energy flux events like powerful geomagnetic storms, like energy bursts in the Schumann resonances. And these are all natural things that you can do. They work well together. They work well synergistically. So I recommend that you watch this entire video to the end so you can learn how to use these things and combine them together. And in general, these are just good lifestyle wellness practices to incorporate into your day-to-day. What exactly is a geomagnetic storm? To answer that question, we have to look at the sun, because occasionally the sun will launch solar flares, coronal mass ejections, and high-speed streams towards our planet. These are regions of enhanced plasma ion density and also sometimes fast plasma velocity. Here we see a coronal mass ejection from the solar surface, launching a bunch of those plasma ions out into interplanetary space, and occasionally these regions of enhanced plasma density will impact the Earth. They carry with them their own magnetic fields, and so when these magnetic fields combine, there are energy injection events into Earth's plastosphere and into the ionosphere in general, and then reconnection events are triggered in Earth's plastosphere, further liberating plasma ions in that part of Earth's magnetic field to travel downwards. Earth's magnetic field has a strength of 25,000 to 65,000 nanotesla, but it only takes magnetic field changes of 30 nanotesla or greater to trigger a geomagnetic storm. And even with those subtle changes to Earth's magnetic field, this can induce bioelectric health effects because we are acutely tuned to the energy changes on our planet. So geomagnetic storms are more frequent during the equinoxes due to the Russell-McLaren effect, and they're also more extreme at higher latitudes. If you are seeing aurora, you're in the middle of a geomagnetic storm. These global disturbances can last for several hours, up to several days. In general, a geomagnetic storm will last about 24 hours, and then there's a recovery period afterwards. The three main types of energies in our environment that we are connected to bioelectrically include solar energies. This would be visible light, ultraviolet light, infrared radiation, also radio waves and more. You have Schumann waves. These are the Schumann resonances. They're in the extremely low frequency part of the light spectrum from about 0 to 50 hertz. They have the same frequency and power as human brain waves. They synchronize long period heart rhythms and also geomagnetic pulsations. These are the extremely low frequency sub 5 hertz magnetic field changes that occur during a geomagnetic storm. And they guide long period heart rate variability, which is connected to our cardiovascular system. It's one of the best measures of overall longevity and cardiovascular health. Cardiovascular health disruptions are positively associated with geomagnetic storms, and these include myocardial infarctions, stroke, increased blood pressure, reduced capillary blood flow, and as I mentioned, reductions in heart rate variability. You want higher heart rate variability that's better for your overall health and longevity. An increase in psychiatric disorders and events is also linked with geomagnetic storms. And one of the clear examples of this is that depression goes up during geomagnetic storms. And in general, geomagnetic field disturbances affect the general human condition. One key aspect of this is disrupted melatonin secretion. Geomagnetic storms appear to lower mean nocturnal melatonin secretion in both healthy and also already unwell people. Melatonin, of course, plays a central role in the regulation of many diverse biologic functions, from the cardiovascular system to the immunological system to circadian rhythms. And it's also an antioxidant. So when you have disrupted melatonin synthesis, you're also changing inflammatory pathways and free radical populations within the body. A disruption of melatonin synthesis will alter the activity of the adrenal glands, influencing glucocorticoid and cortisol production to be higher than normal. Most people know that cortisol is the stress hormone, and in general, geomagnetic storms trigger the HPA axis. This is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which is what controls the stress response, and it also governs your endocrine system, your hormone system. So when you are in a period of geomagnetic storming, the activity of the pineal gland is changed. The functions of the hypothalamus are different. The pituitary gland alters its hormone secretion. The adrenal glands produce more cortisol stress hormone, and this overall can be damaging to the body, especially if it's a chronic condition. To put this information into perspective, we can look at different heart and brain rhythms. We'll start with heart rate variability, which again is that excellent measure of overall health and longevity. And you'll see these heartbeats here. You see sometimes they're spaced out more than others. That's the variability aspect of heart rate. And the greater your heart rate variability, the better your overall cardiovascular health. And you can take heart rate variability patterns and you can analyze them using Fourier transforms to get heart rhythm patterns. So you can see what the heart rate is doing. If it has this nice coherent sine wave, then the body is in a good, coherent, stress-free state. Now, if you're in a state of incoherence, this is frustration, anxiety, worry, irritation, just in general stress, you see that the heart rate variability has no clear pattern to it. And this in general conveys less information to the body and things become more disorganized at the cellular and molecular level as a result. We can also look at parts of the brain, specifically the temporal lobe. The reason why the temporal lobe is important is because it pulses at 8 hertz. This is the first mode of the Schumann resonance, which we'll touch on a little bit in this video. But in general, the Schumann resonances, these extremely low frequency wavelengths of light, are altered during geomagnetic storms in addition to those weather changes like thunderstorms, rainstorms, snowstorms. And we see here in the posterior regions of the brain, the caudal regions, there is a bump of the brainwave power density right at mode 3 of the Schumann resonances. We also see that happen there at 14 hertz mode 2, and also for the first mode, the foundational mode, at 7.8 hertz there. So this will become relevant as we go further in the video because we'll show how some of these herbs and some of these different holistic practices that help the body to stay balanced and in homeostasis, they enhance brainwave activity in the posterior regions of the brain, which are those regions which are pulsing at Schumann frequencies. And those frequencies are altered by geomagnetic storms. So there's a connection between environmental energies and internal energies in the body. We can even go down to the cellular level and look at how the cell membrane changes in response to electromagnetic fields. In general, the thing to know is that electromagnetism is the main force that affects living systems. You have electromagnetism, you have gravity, you have the strong nuclear force, you have the weak nuclear force, and there may be other forces of nature that currently we are unaware of. It's electromagnetism that is the most dominant in our lives, both in terms of our normal day-to-day and then also down at the cellular and molecular levels. Because weak EMFs control and amplify biologic processes through their effects on charge distributions, aka electromagnetic potentials. Even weak electromagnetic fields can change the distribution and the movement of electrons, and electrons can then, depending on their charge distribution, activate voltage-gated ion channels, most notably calcium channels. So even small electron-mediated change triggers widespread ion flux, because you can have a whole bunch of calcium ions here that now go from intercellular to outside the cell, and this changes bioelectric gradients across the body, and that triggers changes in cell behavior and then also DNA expression. Cell surface molecules can also redistribute in response to large pulse electromagnetic fields like the Schumann resonances, which are enhanced during geomagnetic storms, and that depends on the frequency of the waves that are being emitted. So electromagnetic fields modulate transmembrane signaling, and this can change the voltage gradient across the membrane. It can cause depolarization. This influences a lot of things like enzyme processes and again, DNA expression, cellular proliferation, autophagy, apoptosis, and EMFs stimulate big structural changes by unlocking the energy stored in water coherency domains and different cellular components. So they are the first domino that tips the big domino later on. And this is how a lot of our metabolic reactions in the body are triggered, is by this free energy stored in weak electromagnetic fields, which then unlocks stored and sequestered energy in the form of ions in different parts of the cell and outside the cell and in different ion channels and other things of that nature. As we talked about at the beginning, there are a bunch of different natural holistic wellness practices that you can do to improve your health and wellness and to improve your resiliency to these geomagnetic storms and other high energy events, to maintain homeostasis better, to reduce any sort of stress response to changing environmental energies. And for all the holistic wellness practices I'm about to speak of in this video, I have personal experience with them. Earthing and grounding has been the most significant for me. Now, one reason I love earthing and grounding is that anyone can do it. It's free and it's very, very simple, and it works at the core of our bioelectricity. So it really touches upon the foundation of our health and wellness by equalizing our body potentials. When you go outside and you connect to the planet conductively, whether this is bare feet on grass, or you can even just lay down, or you can have a grounded setup within your house connected to a ground wire placed outside, not the typical ground system in a building, you reduce your built up body potential, and you also connect to the certain frequencies that exist within Earth's surface. There are telluric currents that flow there, Schumann resonances, other frequencies. So you're simultaneously reducing your body voltage and getting it into equilibrium with the planet, and you're also changing your energy and frequency environment to be cohesive and coherent with the Earth as well. Now, what this does is this improves the functioning of the autonomic nervous system, and as a result, heart rate variability improves. So when you are earthing and grounding consistently, every day, at least for 5 minutes, but ideally you are grounded when you sleep. This increases heart rate variability, improves cardiovascular health. Other things that do this, of course, would be regular exercise, a healthy diet, and good sleep. Earthing improves your sleep, so it can help make these things easier. If you have chronic fatigue, for example, exercise can be really difficult. It can be too draining on the body. Earthing is a great thing you can do that requires no effort except just going outside and laying on some grass or your earthing sheet. And this can help you get back some energy so you can start exercising again. And things that decrease heart rate variability and weaken cardiovascular health would be like physical inactivity, smoking, drinking, unhealthy diet, and then also sleep deprivation. So make sure you're not doing those things. In regards to earthing and grounding, it's really key to put yourself into the most natural environment possible. That's what's meant by earthing, to actually go into nature, away from all these artificial EMFs, to immerse yourself into the larger biofield of the biosphere. We'll talk about that a little bit more in just a little bit, but that is all part of the earthing process. It's not just grounding. It's not just your body's voltage potential, though that is a big aspect of it. It's about the biochemical reactions that are happening in your body, and that takes some time to modify and to bring into synchronicity with the planet. Now we can see some of these changes here. Earthing normalizes diurnal cortisol secretion. So again, one of the big effects of geomagnetic storms is that there is an increase in cortisol secretion and a decrease in melatonin secretion and synthesis, and that disrupts the circadian rhythm and sleep-wake cycles, and also inflammation and much more, immunity. And so we see here that earthing normalizes the cortisol that is secreted across a 24-hour time period. This is a regular circadian rhythm. We see that it spikes basically right when you're waking up, but we see here with this group of, I think, 12 people, that there's a very, very large variability within their cortisol rhythms. We see this person has their biggest wave around 11 a.m. noon, whereas some people are having very, very large spikes in cortisol that are sharper around 8 a.m. But after earthing, you see that cortisol rhythms across this group, for the most part, stabilized. There are some people here that have these longer waves and rhythms. Of course, they may be a different age, different gender. Just there's a lot of variability within humans in our health and wellness, so not everyone's the same. But in general, you want cortisol secretion to not be as high because that's stressful on the body, and you want to be in a regular rhythm. So there is clear rhythms and feedback for your body to work off of. So earthing normalizes diurnal cortisol secretion, and this is one of the most powerful ways that you can work with a geomagnetic storm or high energy event or anything of that nature by actually connecting to the earth itself. It may seem a little counterintuitive because it's the earth energies that are changing, but by connecting to the earth, specifically the ground where you have these telluric currents flowing, this normalizes all your biorhythms and it greatly enhances your ability to maintain balance and homeostasis even during high energy flux in the atmosphere and above in the ionosphere and the plasmasphere and the magnetic field. Now, right up there with earthing and grounding would be myofascial release. There's a tremendous amount of energy stored in our fascia. Fascia is an extensive network of connective tissues, and it connects and holds all parts of the body together. So it surrounds every organ, it surrounds every muscle, and it connects all of them to the larger ligaments and tendons and bones of the body. And it's very, very stiff, but it's also what gives us our flexibility. And an interesting thing about fascia is that it's actually a semiconductor. So when you apply mechanical pressure to it, bioelectric signals are emitted as a result. And this is very valuable because when you undergo any sort of myofascial release, whether that's from a massage or you're stretching or you're doing something like yin yoga where you do these long, deep stretches, or you're using something like a massage gun. I even made a pulse electromagnetic field therapy a massage gun. I'll put a link on how you can do that yourself too in the video description. When you do these types of modalities or use these types of things, this can adjust your fascia and your overall connective tissue to be healthier, less inflamed, and that changes your bioelectricity as a whole. So that's what I'm getting at with the earthing and the grounding. You go outside, your body potential may equalize quickly, but there may be a lot of stuck energy in your body, specifically in the extracellular matrix, like the fascia and other connective tissues. So when you do myofascial release and you stretch and you combine that with earthing, then that really is a powerful way to improve your overall health and wellness and to maintain better homeostasis and bioelectric integrity amongst changing environmental energy flux, because you don't have these pockets of high energy charge stored in your body that then can trigger inflammation and enhance free radical activity and even trigger your immune system. So you really want to open up and release your body and at a fairly regular frequency. I would say doing some sort of myofascial release 2 to 3 times a week is great. Daily stretching is really ideal, but doing some sort of movement, it doesn't have to be very, very exhaustive or super active. Just doing some sort of movement like yin yoga. There's a whole bunch of classes you can find online. Is really great and one of the best things you can do during a geomagnetic storm, because it allows these energies to flow through your body a little easier and have less impact as they're doing so. To dive into the collagen, bone, fascia, piezoelectricity a little bit more, piezoelectricity is how the application of mechanical stress on a piezoelectric material stimulates an electric current. This would be the flow of free electrons. And it's electric currents in the body that determine DNA expression, determine cellular behaviors, and that is the foundation for everything else in terms of biology. So our collagen fibers and our bone and our fascia are all piezoelectric. So when you apply stress and strain to them, that will then trigger these bioelectric currents to flow out of them. And the reason why they are piezoelectric is that they have these extra electrons stored within their molecular structure. So when you apply mechanical pressure to that crystalline matrix, it causes these electrons to bounce out, to flow out, and electrons can bind to free radicals and neutralize them. So free radicals are very inflammatory. They cause damage. They can trigger cells to undergo apoptosis or even necrosis, cellular death. And so you want electrons that are free floating around, neutralizing free radicals. That's what antioxidants do. That's what melatonin does as an antioxidant, is it can donate an electron. But when you apply some gentle mechanical pressure to your overall connective matrix, then this can liberate some of those electrons that are stored there. Those electrons can be brought in via earthing and grounding. So now you can see how they work together really well. And this keeps the body in an overall less inflamed state and a more vibrant state of health. Another important aspect to all this is how fascia is connected to the insula and how that is responsible in many ways for what we feel and our mood and our emotions. Fascia and the entire connective part of the body is part of the interoceptive system. It's highly conductive, and again, it surrounds and connects all organs, muscles, bones, tendons, and ligaments. So it is the master kind of network that connects everything together, and there's a lot of energy and information and intelligence stored within your body. So when there is noisy interoceptive input coming from your fascia and from your connective tissues and all this, then in different afferent nerves, this can lead to mental health problems like anxiety and depression because there's just too much stimulation coming into the insula. 70% of all musculoskeletal afferent nerves go to the insular cortex. This is right here. And you notice that the insula is actually connected to all the other cortexes because it's in the center of the brain. So whereas the frontal cortex is kind of separated from the posterior cortex and the occipital, you see that the insula is connected to all of them. So this is how our emotions, our mood influence our cognition, our central executive network, and our decision making, and so much more. So many of the approximately 100 million gastrointestinal neurons are part of the interoceptive system. That's why we have like gut intuition. Gut health is connected to all this. We'll talk about that more in the video because it's one of the best ways that you can stabilize yourself during high energy flux events. And 7 interoceptive receptors exist for every one proprioceptive receptor. Also interesting to note is that we have a direct route for interoceptive signals to the insula. It doesn't have to go through any other parts of the brain or the brain stem. So it's able to process what we receive from our body, what we feel with our body directly. So working with your body in a very physical manner can be tremendously useful in regards to improving your emotional state, your mood, your mental health. And that of course affects how you can respond to high energy flux events, because when there's a lot of energy in the environment, it can send your thoughts spinning, it can trigger greater emotions. And so by being more grounded in your body, you have better control, or at least awareness of your emotions and of your thoughts. Something that works really well with earthing and grounding and stretching and myofascial release and massage is aromatherapy. For 80% of the world, herbs are still the first source of medicine, and aromatherapy is a versatile tool which has powerful physiological and psychological effects because it modulates biorhythms. Modulates biorhythms of the brain, of the autonomic nervous system, and of the heart. Aromatherapy can be defined as the use of organic essences of aromatic plants for healing and the maintenance of vitality. So they're a really great outside tool that you can bring in that doesn't require much effort on your part but has powerful effects. One of the main ways to practice aromatherapy is by using essential oils. Essential oils are a complex molecular mixture of alcohols, acids, phenols, esters, ketones, terpenes, and other phytochemicals. And every essential oil is a unique combination of hundreds of these natural constituents. And this effectively ensures that synthetic alternatives are impossible to create. So you want to make sure you get the real thing. I have links in the video description for lavender essential oil, chamomile, and rosemary, in addition to a pack of incense. You can check those out. It's the volatile organic compounds in essential oils and in incense that directly stimulates the olfactory nerve. And this has strong connections to the limbic system. The olfactory nerve goes to the olfactory cortex. This is strongly connected to the limbic system, and also it has connections to other cortices. So when you are using aromatherapy, you are triggering powerful alpha brainwave activity in all these posterior parts of the brain. And remember, these posterior regions, like the hippocampus and the amygdala and the temporal lobe and the olfactory cortex, that is where the Schumann resonances are the strongest in terms of brainwave density. So this is all connected, as you can see. And these parts of the brain, the limbic system, are most associated with memory and mood. So 3 essential oils that I really like are lavender, chamomile, and rosemary. This can be Roman or German chamomile. There's multiple types of chamomile. This can even be daisy flowers, by the way. Lavender is really great because it increases sedation, reduces working memory, decreases levels of alertness, and also decreases depression. So at first glance, you may be like, why would I want my memory to be reduced or my level of alertness? Well, nowadays, there's often too much stimulation in our environment. Our fight or flight response is triggered too much. Our sympathetic nervous system is too active. So lavender essential oil, you can rub this into your hands, you can smell it. This can just in general promote calm and relaxation and reduce some of this hyper alertness that is common for most people nowadays. And it also has the benefit of reducing your working memory. So when the time is right, you don't want to be thinking about all these things, ruminating, having thoughts to spin in your brain. It's good to let the brain and body rest and recharge. So by increasing sedation and by having these types of cognitive effects, This improves your overall ability to handle high energy flux events because you're in a more calm, rested, and relaxed state that's better able to handle change and energy flux in the body. And again, as I said, if you are dealing with depression, lavender essential oil is really great for that. Now, rosemary is kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. If you are someone that is maybe too fatigued, too in this parasympathetic state, you find it hard to gather energy to get going, to do things, to exercise, and rosemary may be great for you because it increases alertness and also improves long-term memory, but it also has an ability to reduce anxiety. So a lot of things that increase alertness and memory and cognitive performance, like for example, coffee, often come paired with this increase in anxiety, but rosemary is great because it has those cognitive stimulating effects, but it reduces anxiety at the same time. So if you're someone that needs to have a little bit more sympathetic nervous system activity, you're too depressed in terms of your metabolism and energy, then rosemary essential oil can be really great for that. Now, probably my favorite would be chamomile essential oil. This is whether it's a Roman or German. I like German chamomile because it has azulines in it, which are these very special blue phytochemicals that have very powerful anti-inflammatory effects, and it absorbs easily into the body. And chamomile has very powerful calming properties. It's very relaxing. It soothes negative emotions and it decreases alertness. So it's similar to lavender. It can be used with lavender. It can be used also with rosemary. The thing to keep in mind with these essential oils and also incense is that they increase 10 to 13 hertz fast alpha brainwave activity, especially in those posterior regions. And this is the middle brainwave. When you close your eyes, alpha activity is increased. When you're kind of resting, eyes closed, meditating, that's when you see these big increases in alpha activity. So when you are increasing your 10 to 13 hertz alpha brainwave activity, you're taking some of that energy away from delta and theta rhythms. And you can also be taking some of that energy away from the higher frequency beta and gamma rhythms. And this brings you more into the center. It keeps you more balanced, keeps you more in line and in homeostasis. And now you're better able to move whichever direction you want. If you want to now take a nap or go to sleep, it's easier to do so. If you want to start to be more active, or let's say do a workout or exercise, or you have a cognitively stimulating task ahead of you, or you're going to be meeting with a lot of people, now you can go back up into beta and gamma brainwave activity. But when you are highly activated in the 20 to 30 plus hertz range with those beta and gamma brainwave lengths, it can be difficult to go down into delta and gamma waves where you want to sleep and rest. And so alpha is that bridge between the two, and it helps you move from one to the other. And in general, throughout the day, you want strong alpha activity. So I like to drink chamomile tea throughout the day. I actually don't find it terribly sedative, but I do find that it helps me stay rested and relaxed and calm. And then I can either, cycle up and kind of rev the engine if I want, or I can reduce my kind of power and energy levels and even deeper go into rest and relaxation using chamomile. But I have links for lavender, chamomile, and rosemary essential oils in the video description. Incense is really great because you can just burn an incense stick. They're very cheap and it'll fill the entire room with these smells and these volatile organic compounds that triggers your olfactory nerve. And when that signal reaches the olfactory cortex, it then radiates out to the nearby adjoining cortices. So this effect of enhancing alpha brainwave activity starts with the olfactory nerve, but then it goes to the olfactory cortex and then radiates out through the entire brain. And it really radiates into the limbic system, like we talked about, which will help you manage your mood and emotions and mental energy and thought patterns during these high energy events, which can trigger and stimulate all that very strongly, especially during really powerful geomagnetic storms. One of the great benefits of aromatherapy is that it promotes deep breathing. And in general, breathwork is one of the best things you can do for your overall health and wellness. It teaches you how to modulate the activity of your autonomic nervous system. This is your heart rate. This is the muscular contractions of your digestive system. This is respiration. This is a whole bunch of unconscious activities that occur in the body. And by having conscious control of your breath, you can learn to modulate that and improve that. So you can take yourself out of sympathetic nervous system activity. You can put yourself into parasympathetic nervous system activity, or vice versa. So breathing exercises are amazing for improving overall health and fitness. One reason for this is because the diaphragm lies in between the heart and the lungs. It's strengthened by deep breathing, and the diaphragm itself plays a key role in regulating rhythmic muscular contractions of the digestive system. This, of course, is how we get our energy. This is one of the foundations of our metabolism. The digestive system is also very heavily linked to the immune system. So by doing breathing exercises, you are working and strengthening all these different aspects of your being. Now, something that you may not know is that oxygen is weakly magnetic under the influence of an applied magnetic field. This means it is paramagnetic. And with the heart and the lungs so close together, every breath you take alters the magnetic flux of your body due to the interaction between oxygen in your heart's biofield. So you're breathing in oxygen, your heart is emitting this electromagnetic field, and the oxygen is interacting with that. It's slightly aligning to that magnetic field with every breath, and then you breathe it out. So when you do breath work, this influences and improves the overall efficiency of your respiration, your metabolism, and much more. So you can pair breath work with aromatherapy. You can pair both of those with, let's say, stretching and earthing. So you can see how you can combine these all together simultaneously for a very powerful effect. And there's no hard drugs involved or prescription meds or surgeries or anything of this nature. They're just very simple, but they're very, very effective at helping you to maintain your calm and cool during high energy flux events, or just in general with your life. If you're going through a stressful period, you had a bad day, all these things are really amazing for helping you to just stay centered, focused, balanced, and in that compassionate state of mind. So for breath work, you can just simply do deep breathing where you just focus on your breath. First, you listen and observe. You don't change it. You just see where your breathing is. How does that make you feel? Then you can slowly guide yourself to do deeper and deeper breaths. You could also do something like box breathing, where you do a 4-second inhale, a 4-second hold, 4-second exhale, 4-second hold, completely empty lungs. That's really great. I do that often. You can pair breath work with meditation, eyes closed, focus on third eye, and just whatever gets brought up, thoughts, observe them, let them go. So you can see how all these things work together really nicely. In general, with the breath work, you want to focus on deep breathing, but you don't want to be excessive. And I would also encourage you to slowly reduce the size of your breath. So you want to breathe deeply, but make them quieter and slower and stiller over time. And this will reduce the overall kind of energy state of your body. And this is very restorative at a deep, deep, deep molecular and cellular level. Another way to modulate the activity of the autonomic nervous system is by utilizing certain herbs and by drinking herbal tea. Now, the first recommendation that I would give you would be to skip the coffee during periods of high energy flux. This would be before a geomagnetic storm, during a geomagnetic storm. This could also be thunderstorms, Schumann bursts, as we talked about, and also skip any caffeine or sugar containing drinks, because caffeine and sugar stimulate the adrenal glands. This releases cortisol, and with melatonin secretion already being disturbed and reduced during these periods of high energy flux, with shifted circadian rhythms already in play, it's best to reduce any unnecessary cortisol release. So I have 3 tea blends here which you can use and drink instead of coffee. If you're a coffee drinker, or green or black tea, I would even recommend taking those out. And you'll notice that chamomile flower is in all 3 of these tea blends here. One note is that if you have a ragweed allergy, you should avoid chamomile unless you've already found that it's fine. But if you just want a basic overall wellness go-to herbal tea blend, it's very simple. You can just steep equal parts of chamomile and passion flower together, and you can drink that throughout the day. And that is really great for just promoting overall balance in your autonomic nervous system, for staying centered and grounded and calm and in that kind of rest, relaxed state. Now, if you want something that enhances your microbiome gut-brain axis, improves your digestion, optimizes your cognition, then it's really simple. You can just steep equal parts chamomile flower, dandelion root, and lemongrass. Lemongrass has a bunch of amazing phytochemicals in it. Dandelion root is really good for the digestive system, as is chamomile. Chamomile is one of these things that modulates the autonomic nervous system, as we talked about. All three combined together are really great for improving digestion in the microbiome gut-brain axis, especially when you have it over time. And it's also probably the best thing you can have when you're fasting because it contains electrolytes, it staves off any sort of hunger response, and it makes the whole fasting process more efficient by healing the tissues of your gut while you're also not consuming food. It optimizes your metabolism and more. Now, one tea blend that I've experimented with too that's good for potentiating dreams and for anyone that has any special abilities for psychic enhancement perhaps would be chamomile flower, mugwort, and blue lotus flower in equal parts. Steep that for 15 plus minutes. You want to give that time for the blue lotus flower alkaloids to come out as much as possible. And then I'd recommend you drink that about 1 hour before meditation or your psychic practice or any sort of, let's say, like divination or sleep. It's really good for that. And so you can drink these before, during, or in that recovery period of a geomagnetic storm, and that will help you stay centered and balanced and grounded. These three herbs here are also really great: turkey tail, red reishi, mushrooms, and then ashwagandha. These are all adaptogens. Ashwagandha is the most well-known, but so are turkey tail and reishi. You can get all three of these from Nootropics Depot. That is my main supplier for these adaptogens and for a lot of different nootropics and herbs. I also have turkey tail and reishi growing in my backyard, so I use them that way too. But if you don't have access to that, then Nootropics Depot, links in the video description. Turkey tail, reishi, and ashwagandha are great herbs for increasing restful parasympathetic nervous system activity, for decreasing stress, ameliorating fatigue, improving sleep, lowering inflammation, and improving immunity. Yes, they do all those things. So you should definitely incorporate those into your daily routine, whether you're adding turkey tail to your coffee, for example, when it's not a geomagnetic storm, or into your tea, whether you're taking these just by themselves at a regular schedule. I think turkey tail and red reishi in particular are very, very good because they're gentle on the body. And if you get ashwagandha, make sure you just get raw ashwagandha powder, not any of these super enhanced versions, because that can actually trigger the opposite effect. It can trigger anxiety and some of these metabolic and immune problems because it's too much. They're bifastic in their response. So you want to, they're useful to take, but not too much. And again, links in the video description for all of these. Another thing that really helps during periods of high energy flux, like a geomagnetic storm, or even just periods of craziness in your life, would be sound healing, yoga nidra, and then also there's various rocks and crystals that you can use to help ground yourself and to stabilize your energies. Sound healing is really great because it is loading your auditory nerve with a lot of information, and that then travels through the brain, and that sense and that signal then radiates out, so it can stimulate coherent brainwave activity. It can also, it's just sound and vibration and frequency, so it can reverberate through your body and change the expression of cells and molecules and a whole bunch of things that we really don't have the science on. But there has been, so much history with sound healing, and profound healing has been done using sound. So if you haven't ever had a sound healing, I recommend you go to that. There's also really great sound healing tracks that you can find. For example, I like to listen to gong music on YouTube. So you could type that in, and that's really great for deeply grounding yourself. So if you're noticing big energy flux and a lot of agitation from, let's say, a geomagnetic storm, then listening to like a gong sound bath would be really great. You could pair that with yoga nidra. This is a yogic practice that takes you to that boundary between sleep and wakefulness. So it's many ways, it's like a guided meditation, but it then will bring you back up before you just totally fall asleep. So combining sound healing and yoga nidra is great. Then you can also use rocks and crystals to ground yourself during these periods of high energy flux. For example, just plain old rocks like these, you can see how they're dark in color. This means that they absorb light. When something is black, it is absorbing light energy, and that works not just in the visible range, but often across a large swath of the electromagnetic spectrum. It's heavy, it's dense, it absorbs energy. So you can put these, hold on to them, keep them on you, put them on your body, different chakras. That's very useful. We also have hematite here. This is iron oxide. That's great for grounding. So is obsidian. We have howlite there. That is a mineral known for its calming and soothing properties. We have elite shungite down here in the bottom corner. That is highly conductive, so it can pull these energies out of you very rapidly. Black tourmaline is great for grounding your body and for discharging any negative energies and emotions to that crystal. You can also use like tourmalated quartz. That also works really well. And then there's even things like various metal alloys and special stones that you can, this is from Egypt right here, that you can use and place on your body or hold on to. That's really great for kind of discharging some of this energy. So you can use all three of these in conjunction. You could put different crystals on different chakra points and then listen to a sound healing or participate in a sound healing. And that can be very stabilizing for your energy and for your larger biofield during a high energy event. And over time, this also just in general builds health and wellness integrity, bioelectric resiliency, and anti-fragility. So the more you engage with these things, the more prepared you'll be for any future events that come your way. So when energies in our environment are changing really rapidly, this is changing the energies within you, and this alters your biofield and your aura and beyond. So one way you can stabilize yourself and to remediate some of these effects that may occur would be to maintain biofield coherence. Now again, electromagnetic fields connect everything together. Some things are more energetically inert than others. And during periods of high energy flux, like a geomagnetic storm, thunderstorm, Schumann burst, you can stabilize your biofield by connecting it to other biofields. So here's the biofield of the heart. You see that there. Trees also have a very powerful biofield. Their roots go very, very deep. It's a misnomer that they stay shallow. There are roots that go down tens of meters or more, and those connect to those deep telluric electric currents in Earth's surface, brings those energies up, and as those electric currents flow, they create magnetic fields which you can immerse yourself in. That is the tree biofield. And so when you go into a forest, you're now enmeshed within the larger biofield of many, many trees and other plants and animals. Of course, Earth's magnetic field is the largest and strongest magnetic field across the planet. And one thing you can do is to build an energy cord to the core. That's a useful grounding visualization. You can do it anywhere, even when you're flying on the plane. So if you happen to catch yourself on a flight during a geomagnetic storm, the energies there are going to be even more intense because you're going to be higher up in the atmosphere. You're going to be experiencing more high energy ion flux. You can do this energy cord to Earth's core visualization exercise to keep yourself a little bit more grounded. So in general, spend some time near a large tree. The larger it is, the stronger its biofield. You know, ask if you can do that. See if it's healthy. Better yet, go to a forest and enmesh yourself into the overall biofield of the region. Get away from artificial electromagnetic fields like in the city, from cell towers, Wi-Fi, smart things. And another way you can do all this is just to bring yourself or just to be in close proximity to others that you feel comfortable around, whether this is people or pets. And by being together within that kind of 1 to 2 meter radius of your biofield, this is very stabilizing for biofield energies. And so you can do all this together. You can go out to the woods with your friend or with your dog or dogs, and that will help you stay grounded during periods of high energy flux. One of the nice things about going out into nature is that it gets you away from technology and from the house and the Wi-Fi system and the power grid and all this. But if you are in the home, then you should consider your light exposure, because that has a big influence on your ability to cope with changing energies in your environment. It is the light of your environment that influences melatonin secretion normally. So when you have these changing geomagnetic fluxes, that is then modified by your light environment. So if it's nighttime, make sure it's warm lights, so low Kelvin temperatures. You should get some blue blockers. These are the blue blockers that I bought. They're a good price. They're like less than $30. They're very effective. I have a link in the video description if you want this for yourself. And that's important because blue light exposure can cause all these health problems. It can distract you. Of course, technology is very distracting. It can impair your memory because of a disruption to your sleep schedule. It can potentially damage the retina over time. We've been exposing ourselves to high amounts of blue light from technology for a limited length of time now. So we really don't know all the downstream long-term effects of this. But there is a link with blue light to cataracts. Also, a connection between blue light exposure at night and disturbed sleep, and how that can increase the risk of cancer, specifically breast and prostate cancer, which are some of the main cancers for women and men respectively. And then by suppressing and disrupting melatonin synthesis and secretion, smartphone light and the light from your laptop or TVs especially are very, very powerful. It can alter your endocrine system, and this controls, hunger and your digestive system, your mood, your emotions. So there's a whole bunch of things that happen when you expose yourself to too much blue light. So if you do have to use technology, then wear your blue blockers while you're doing it, especially once the sun goes down. And it's important in context of all this to also get outside, get healthy sun exposure, get some sunlight on your skin, produce vitamin D, and this is great for your hormone system. This helps you to normalize your circadian rhythm. The name of the game here with these high energy events is to maintain normal circadian rhythms. You want to maintain going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time for the most part. And so earthing helps with that. Getting good sun exposure helps with that. And then reducing your technology use at nighttime overall, and then also your blue light exposure is really, really impactful as it relates to your circadian rhythm. We touched on this lightly with caffeine and sugar, but what you eat in general has a big influence on the state of your body, whether you're in an inflamed state, whether you're healthy and vital and full of good energy, because it's your primary energy input is what you eat. So when there's high energy flux in the environment, this of course modulates the autonomic nervous system as we talked about. That alters digestive flows and motility, so that can cause some digestive upset. And when these things are happening, you can prepare by eating simple foods. Like down below, we have a grain bowl. This is brown rice, black beans, and baked tofu cubes, along with some bell pepper. Then there's butternut squash and avocado put on top. Or you can keep it very, very simple and have something like raw almond butter. This is something I really like to do, is I add in red reishi mushroom powder into the almond butter, some Ceylon cinnamon, a little bit of honey, mix them together. That makes it so the almond butter is not as low viscosity. It's a little bit more, sticky like peanut butter is. So it's not running off your bread or your banana, whatever it is. But then by adding the red reishi to this, and the Ceylon cinnamon is good for your overall circulatory system, and it's good for nutrient partitioning and for your pancreas and insulin sensitivity. This is a very simple meal. It's just one ingredient. raw almonds. So you can simplify your food intake to just be very, very easy. Potatoes are amazing. I recommend vegetable soup. That's what I have right now for this geomagnetic storm that we have coming up. It's just simple potato and vegetable soup with beef broth. Now, if in general you're experiencing digestive upset and problems, then I recommend fasting. It's one of the most powerful tools for improving overall wellness, because by getting everything out of the system, it allows your body a chance to rest and to recharge and regenerate. In general, digestion is inflammatory. It's a stress on the body. So when there's just too much stress in your life, then fasting is one of the best things you can do, especially if you're carrying extra body weight, because then you can just start burning that body fat, and that improves your hormone profile and takes weight off your body, and that's great. So to improve fasting, you can drink herbal teas. This improves energy metabolism throughout the fast. It helps heal the digestive system. Also provides the electrolytes that you won't be getting from food, and it staves off hunger. So there's a lot of things that you can do that improve your digestive system, which may be upset during high energy flux events. And if you are going to eat, just make sure you prioritize low FODMAP vegetables and plant proteins. So if you start loading up on vegetables, but they're cruciferous and they're FODMAP heavy, that can just be a further, it can further stress your digestive system. So stick with low FODMAP, stick with plant proteins, and then if you need to, you can fast and drink herbal teas. By the way, I have a holistic gut health guide, which goes into all this and more, all the different ways you can improve your gut health using natural healing methods to finally discover true health and wellness, because health and wellness in many ways starts with your gut. It's 88 pages. It goes in depth on the digestive system, the different organs. It goes into different dietary strategies, meal timing, what to eat. It has a lengthy section on the microbiome. It goes in depth on fasting. I speak from personal experience with all this, and I also conducted a lot of scientific research from writing the Holistic Gut Health Guide, and before that for many, many years, because I had a 10-year gut health journey that I went through from about 20 to 30, where I identified intolerances, and then I healed my gut, and it was pretty squirrely at times, and I took all that experience and knowledge and information and put it into the Holistic Gut Health Guide. So you can get that for $12.95, link in the video description. I also quickly want to touch on how the microbiome gut-brain axis is deeply connected to the limbic system, which has been a main theme throughout this video. Because the vagus nerve, this is one of the main afferent nerves of the body. It goes right to the insular cortex, connects to the limbic system. This innervates nearly every single organ, and it's strongly connected to the digestive system and the microbiome. So the microbiome can send signals through the vagus nerve, and then the body can send signals to the microbiome through the vagus nerve. It's bidirectional. Now, one thing to note is that 90% of serotonin is created and found in the gastrointestinal digestive lining, and metabolites produced by the microbiome heavily influence serotonin production. So there's a lot of hormonal factors at play when it comes to digestion, and then this of course links to your mood, your emotion, your thoughts, and that then goes back down to influence what you do, what you're focused on, your activity levels, whether you are healthy, whether your autonomic nervous system is balanced. It's all connected together. So you can start to make improvements by focusing in one area. Let's say gut health. You can pick up the Holistic Gut Health Guide, read that, really focus on improving your gut health, and this will then have this will cause health improvements in other areas and make maybe some other things that you've been dealing with or struggling with a little easier. You can even start very simple with just by drinking herbal teas. That will have a overall health benefit, and then this may improve your health such that your inflammation is now low enough so you can walk around without pain now, or it's easier to fall asleep because there's not so much overactivity. So in general, by working on these things, whether independently or together, you can optimize the entire body and your health and wellness as a result. And that's the key. Effectively, during a period of high energy flux, you just have to be extra mindful and conscious of your health and wellness. If you do that, you'll be fine. And it's best to use those moments of high energy flux to work on routing old energy out of your body. It provides an opportunity to actually clear out a lot of old energy and trauma and things of that nature. And a lot of that is, kind of localized in the torso region, which is where the digestive system is. And a lot of that information is also impacted by the microbiome. If you have a pathogenic microbiome, it produces a lot of toxins, inflammation that can feed into any of those stagnant energies and clogs that you have. Whereas if you have a symbiotic microbiome, it'll potentiate your cognitive ability and it'll keep your body very healthy. Your metabolism will be running good because you're getting short chain fatty acids. You have constant fuel of energy from your microbiome, and everything is great, including sleep and immunity and so much more. So the microbiome gut-brain axis is one of the key places to focus on when you are looking to optimize your health and wellness. And a lot of those herbs that I mentioned, like chamomile and passion flower and turkey tail and reishi, ashwagandha, all those work with the microbiome gut-brain axis. Links in the video description. When there's heightened geophysical energy flux in the environment, I've found that personally mental health can take a little bit of a hit, whether this is by an increase in anxiety, more depression, or just cyclical hyperactive thoughts that aren't shutting down. This can just cause an overall increase in mental energies, and that can be very draining because the brain uses 20% of the body's energy every day, and that's just under normal conditions. If your mental activity is off the charts, then that could be even more. So what's important to realize with these periods of high energy flux, like geomagnetic storms, is that you can operate different modes of different operating systems of the brain, and you can consciously work with these different modes to lessen the mental burden that you're carrying, which of course thoughts can trigger emotions, and that can trigger moods, and so they're all connected. So the brain has these different operating systems it utilizes based on sensory input, what you're seeing, what you're doing. And when you're not in any definitive activity, it's the default mode network that's activated. So when you're in that restful parasympathetic state, it's a default mode network. Now this is default mode network. It's your default mode network, okay? So you want that network to be very clean and optimized. And so these geomagnetic storms can activate the default mode network and send some of these energy grooves and these little mental circuits spinning. But that also provides a good time for you to rewire and reformat your default mode network. So you can do that with meditation and by chanting, singing different mantras, affirmations. Keep it simple. I recommend you keep it very, very simple and just have that thought on repeat. You could practice active concentration, active awareness meditation. That's really good at helping you to regroove your default mode network. One thing that helps with this a lot are psychedelics like psilocybin because it shuts off, in many ways, the central executive network, the salience network, and it shuts off in many ways all the different networks normally active in the brain. And so all the interoceptive signals, like from the vagus nerve and others, are then able to be identified and consciously processed. But you can also do that just with different wellness practices like meditation and sound healing, and by drinking herbal tea and earthing, grounding, stretching, yin yoga. Yin yoga is amazing for all this, by the way. So this can help you greatly during periods of increased geophysical energy flux. And by reformatting your default mode network, it makes every single period of high energy flux in the future easier to handle with, and you get better and better with time. Practice makes perfect. Of course, I also want to mention that it's not just changing electromagnetic fields of natural origin that can be stressful on the body. It's also all the artificial electromagnetic fields in our environment now that contribute the most to a lot of this electrosensitivity and to a lot of these health and wellness problems that we're seeing. The most common symptoms are fatigue, headaches, sleep disturbances, depression, feelings of discomfort, difficulty concentrating, brain fog, memory loss. You can see all of them here. And so when you are more aware of your electromagnetic environment, this means being more aware of it as it's changing in terms of geophysics, whether there's a geomagnetic storm or a thunderstorm rolling overhead or activity in the Schumann resonances. And it also means being aware of where's your Wi-Fi in relation to your sleep. Is there a smart meter on your house? Are you near a 4G or 5G cell tower? How many smart devices do you have? Do you keep your phone in another room when you sleep? Is it off? Is it on airplane mode? Like, what is your overall electromagnetic environment? Most of that nowadays is influenced by artificial EMFs and not natural ones. It's just when natural electromagnetic fields increase in power naturally due to space weather events, for example, that just further stresses the body. It's that change which often is felt the most, but it's the base load of artificial EMFs which is causing most of the health problems that electrosensitive people are feeling. So just be very mindful of that and take those steps to reduce the artificial EMFs in your environment, and you'll very quickly feel the change because your stress response will greatly diminish. Your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis will finally be able to breathe a sigh of relief, and it can start to normalize your hormone production again. Chronic fatigue is one of the main things that happens during if you have any sort of like electrosensitivity. It can be really crushing. So you gotta remove those energies from your environment. Turn the Wi-Fi off in your sleep. That's one of the easiest things you can do. Reduce the smart devices that you have. Put your phone in a different room. You don't want that next to your head when you're sleeping. Don't use it too much. Blue light, we talked about all that. This is important. I also want to note that many of the common health symptoms associated with high energy flux in the environment, like fatigue, like heart flutters, and like brain fog, inflammation, emotional instability, rapidly changing moods and thought forms, these are also signs and symptoms of spiritual evolution. So one thing that happens is as you become bioelectrically sensitive, this changes your body at the cellular and molecular level. It starts to change DNA expression, cell expression, and much more. And so you are going from one state to another state. You're going from A to B, and it's in that middle ground, that transition zone, where a lot of these symptoms can come up. So if you experience sudden dietary changes or a lot of inflammation or metabolic energy changes like fatigue or overstimulated, if you're seeing more dreams and they're more vivid and lucid, and if you're having greater EQ, more emotional awareness, but also potentially more emotional instability, and you're witnessing and experiencing a lot of synchronicities, then that's a sign that you're on a spiritual evolution journey. And that, of course, is a continuous process, but being mindful of all the health and wellness things that I mentioned in this video and combining those different practices together helps you to kind of expedite that transition from A to B, and to now be more centered and balanced and grounded and much more healthy. Being unhealthy is not a sign of being spiritually evolved. You want to be spiritually aware, highly conscious, and also healthy, because you can't help others optimally if you can't help yourself. So it's important when you're going through that transition, some call it a Kundalini awakening, to nourish your body, to do everything you can to improve your health and wellness. Earthing and grounding are amazing at that. Again, look at these cortisol circadian rhythms here. We see how it gets optimized with earthing. And this is also important because your circadian rhythm determines how your body recovers and repair. And if you have a disrupted circadian rhythm, then your DNA repair mechanisms are altered, and this can increase your risk of cancer and other chronic diseases. So if you are undergoing this spiritual evolution, you're doing this transition from A to B, not everyone has a transition. Some people are just there, or they were healthy to begin with. But if you are in this period of high flux in your body, like your own energy flux in your body is really all over the place, then do these health and wellness practices to optimize your health and wellness and to make that transition easier, because the longer you let those things become normal, then the more damage it can do over time. So it's really important. And just in general, if you're starting to notice signs and symptoms from these geomagnetic events like space weather impacts, then that's a sign that you're on this spiritual evolution journey. So we covered an absolute ton in this video. I hope you found that useful. If you did, please click the like button, subscribe to see more content like this. All the products that I use, I've linked in the video description. If you purchase a product through one of those links, I do get an affiliate commission for that. It does not affect your purchase price. That helps support this channel and my work, so thank you so much. And if you'd like to learn more about the connection between electromagnetic fields and health, then I have some videos on screen for you here. I hope now with all this information, it helps you to improve your health and wellness and to optimize your lifestyle, and that you ride out any future geomagnetic storms with ease. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one. Ciao.